What is going on, everybody? It is February 12th, 2024. Day log episode over NQ, live stream review. So if you were in attendance today, I think it was an excellent demonstration and illustration of when to sit on the sidelines, when not to do anything, and even if price moves to your targets, if your model does not print, it does not mean that you missed a move. So a lot of psychological things that I would deem valuable that you learned from today's session. And if I was to put it down in a journal, in a notebook, what you learned from today, that's what I would put down. And that's why I do these live streams and these daily logs, because each day you're going to learn something unique to that day. And that's why you have to find it very valuable and place it in a high regard, because no one video is going to do that for you. If you were in attendance today, you could see that there's no video that's going to teach you that. There's nothing that's going to alert you that price should be in consolidation. It's only through time and experience, and you can learn that experience from somebody else. So I mention that a lot because I think it's very crucial. If you're not really recognizing what's happening, either you will eventually recognize it, but if you do, good for you. It's exactly why we're here, right? It's what ICT did for us. That's what I wish to do for all of you, is lend you that experience so you don't have to go through the certain struggles and the roadblocks that I had to. So just comment beneath today if you learned something, if you're, stood on the sidelines, didn't do anything. Um, pat on the back if you did. And even if you made profit, I'm not criticizing, but my personal style, if you were able to sit on sidelines, I think it was great. So I kind of want to bring the attention back out to the higher time frames. Monthly candle, we got 16 days left or so. We've just immediately opened and expanded higher. So we didn't have any lower close or lower open. Doesn't necessarily have to, but I'm just curious to see where this all plays out, especially on the weekly time frame this week. Is I'm thinking in terms of the weekly profile. Tomorrow we have CPI. So tomorrow I could look at the weekly template and try to see, do we set a low inside of the CPI for the week? Because if I'm going to maintain, I'm going to lean on the idea we're going to continue higher unless I'm proven wrong. It's just obviously order flow keeps seeking higher prices. So tomorrow, when I'm looking at the weekly template, we could set the low of the week. For me, if I was to look at a weekly template, setting the high of the week, if this was bearish, setting the high of the week on a Monday, it's a little less probability for that to happen, but very well could. So either A, this is going to turn into a down close candle this week, or B, we set the low of the week tomorrow or Wednesday and then expand higher, running over Monday's high. So you have to look at the weekly time frame in Power 3 and just seeing, okay, how is the week playing out? Where could I likely see things travel to? Overall, again, I'm not going to try to call a top on this. I'm hesitant to continue pushing longs, but overall, I can't abandon the idea that order flow is still bullish. I have to submit to that idea. So, and that's what today, even if you're looking at that run higher, during that whole consolidation, nasty price action in the morning, if you just held on to that idea that, all right, I'm going to submit to the narrative, which is bullish, you would have not elected to take any shorts. You wouldn't have taken any losses on that side. And if you sat still and waited until price at least moved higher, at least you're on side with the idea that price was bullish. You're submitting to the narrative. But if you're just wishy-washy, like a feather in the wind, going with whatever narrative you think is going to happen that day, then you're going to get blown around, and it's not going to be fun. So I preach very heavily on narrative and paying attention to the higher time frame. As far as today, we took out buy-side liquidity from Friday's high, and then you saw this rapid displacement lower with PM session. So I tweeted that it was quite decoupled. And if you saw the delivery of today, at least in my eyes, it was a bit just kind of out of nowhere. And the delivery to me, especially being experienced, was just to me not anticipated, at least. So it was interesting to see play out. I didn't engage with price today, and I'm happy I didn't. Tomorrow we have CPI. We're going to see how that plays out. But we closed underneath this inefficiency here, and I don't see anything else besides this discount for value gap and this one down here as well. So if we were to expand higher, what am I expanding higher off of? There's nothing in here for price to move off of. we've already closed beneath this 4-hour inefficiency after taking out buy side. So to me, we may likely see either consolidation or drop lower. And with CPI, I mean, anything can happen. But as far as inefficiencies and where price is at, there's nothing that price can utilize to go higher currently. We've disrespected bullish PD raise. The only one that was valid really was this, and we closed beneath it. So anything else underneath here, I mean, there's this reclaim fair value gap, but I don't see price returning to that and expanding higher off of it, to be honest with you. So I'm just curious to see what CPI does. Again, I'm probably going to need more information and going into the session and see what really happens. But we've taken buy side here. There is SMT between YM, ES, and NQ. So study that for your homework. We have an inefficiency there. But again, what is the narrative? At least on the higher time frames, we're still bullish. So any bearish model that prints, it's simply going to get ran over. The only time you can shorten a market where you're bullish, this goes with narrative, is if like this, where you're expanding higher, but at one point price should retrace on a higher time frame, then you could be willing to shorten here because you just know that the narrative is just retracing. All it's doing is retracing. Doesn't mean that it's shifting from bullish to bearish. You're just in the retracement of the overall bullish narrative. And I was trying to describe that today and how to work within a narrative, because on a higher time frame you could be bullish, but on a lower time frame you're having that retracement, which is bearish, to then get back in line with the higher time frame narrative. So you have to understand exactly where you're at in the overall. I mean, that goes back to make basic market structure and just looking at, are we making new highs, higher lows? I mean, that's as basic as you can get it. I'm just looking at today and recapping price action. I was describing this opening range and how it was low probability. And if you want to go back for the full details of it, I suggest going to live stream. But we took out internal sell side liquidity here. I was describing how this was an external low. And we're taking out internal sell side liquidity. So if you looked at the dealing range, I can't get that line perfectly, but if you looked at the dealing range from that low up to that high, everything inside of that would be internal. So it's taking out internal, sell side displaced higher, and then we remained in a sideways basically chop until halfway through the silver bullet, we decided to expand higher to attack buy side liquidity. And even ICT posted this. He was looking for the same thing I was looking for this morning. There was just nothing to enter into the market. And I think that there was one entry which he highlighted and he just kind of let it pass him because it wasn't that dictative at that moment that it was going higher. At least in my eyes, that's what I was feeling from him. And that was this particular entry here. And if you study this fair value gap, extend that out in time and look in the PM session, it's pretty cool. So this entire range, we were able to sit out of it, not do anything. And I described the details and why we were doing that. But inside of this range, I mean, I saw a lot of people today on social media getting chopped up, taking many losses inside of these ranges. And it's exactly what I've put myself in the position to stop trading inside of these conditions. These consolidational seek and destroy little tight ranges happen all the time on index futures, all the time. It's high resistance. It's not a favorable condition. Eventually, with time, if you work within the time, it will move out of it for the most part. Not always. Sometimes you stay in this tight range for the entire day. But I have certain things that will tell me this type of range is predictable. And it's easy to see before any of it even plays out. I was able to predict this even from the open. So understand that. It's a superpower to be able to sit out of a condition like this. Many people are trying to go short, trying to go long, trying to go short, trying to go long. By the time the half hour rolls on the silver bullet, they've already taken 5 losses. Think about that. Imagine if you weren't able to take those stupid losses and wait for something where it finally starts moving out of the consolidation and you're able to participate in that and you took no losses. Today, if this thing reached down into this inefficiency here, I was willing to go long. Even the one above it, I was willing to participate in the move because by then I could see we were clearly moving out of the consolidation. And here, I think this is a little bit premature because if you rolled this all the way back at that point in time, We're still basically inside of the consolidation. I could have easily seen this drop lower in here. I can't make that hindsight judgment on myself. But for me, as soon as we get above this inversion, fair value gap from this BISI extended out, and we get above the new week opening gap, that to me is telling me, all right, we're really starting to shift now. We've taken out internal sell side liquidity. We're going through the halfway mark of the silver bullet, so I'm paying attention to time. What time did this start unfolding? Right at the 10:30 mark. So anytime you look at a silver bullet, you've been consolidating the first 30 minutes, look for the last 30 minutes if you start moving. And especially look at the macro at the end of the silver bullet. That's when price will start moving. So for all of you ask, how do you use the macro? Well, if you've been consolidating for the most part of the silver bullet, look for the half-hour mark or the last 20 minutes. So in here, to me, as soon as we got above this high, we got above the new week opening gap, and we got above the inversion, this is where I was going to willingly go long, but we didn't get down into this fair value gap. Just using the new week opening gap is not enough for me, personally. Again, here, I was willing at price dip down into that. I was willing to go long, but nothing ended up playing out to where I could participate. And that's perfectly fine. That's something that you have to be okay with and comfortable with, that you're going to miss some moves. It doesn't mean that you're flawed or your model's flawed. So I hope you can look at this last kind of 20 minutes in here and then the half-hour mark. I mean, look at the movement. It's beautiful. So again, to keep you out of certain trades and when to look for the price to start moving is look at time. Time is the first element to these concepts. And what do? We rally right towards, we spool right towards the buy side liquidity. And that entire time, we're just building a trend line phantom basically in here. It was building what retail called a triangle pattern, basically. Price is squeezing, 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 and then it breaks out. But if you look inside of consolidations and you want to see which side is it going to rally towards most likely, look at the side that it continuously keeps taking and the side that it leaves. So in here, we're taking sell side underneath that low, taking sell side in there, here, and then we rally. We're leaving all the highs basically intact. So to me, it's a really good session, man. If you missed it, I suggest going back through it. But it's a really, really good example of the things that really make you profitable. Being able to sit through a condition like this, and especially if I was able to enter in a trade today, man, that would have been icing on the cake, because that's something I struggled with for a long time, is sitting through consolidation or not being able to take losses and then waiting for when it actually makes the move, able to participate in that. Like, think about the superpower, think about the probability you can hold, is if you're able to sit through this and then wait for the move that actually unfolds and you took no losses, no mental capital spent, man, that's beautiful. As far as everything else, it was a little sloppy in delivery, to be honest with you. I mean, it moved a lot, but we just had this random drop off lower. And to me, it's random because the delivery was so quick. And even in here, we just dropped off lower, and I was not willing to be inside of this. We're inside of such a deep discount after taking sell side. YM was really decoupled away from all of this, so it just seemed unfavorable to me, and I just didn't want to participate in it personally. I looked at the PM session, I was like, I'll just wait for tomorrow. So study the 1 minute, that silver bullet right at 10:30. I mean, that fair value gap, extend that out in time on the 1 minute to over here. Study that. But yeah, we dropped off lower. Use this inefficiency here, dropped off lower again. I really have no hardline bias for tomorrow, to be honest with you. CPI, anything can happen. I'm not gonna push a certain bias upon it. Dollar index, if I had to favor something, I would look for higher prices in it tomorrow. That's really, really what I'd like. Good see here. Original consolidation. I'm gonna keep keying off of this until I'm proven wrong. I'm calling a market maker buy model all the way up to 107.345. I've stood on that, and if I can go back and into this video when it reaches there, that'll be pretty cool. So, not that it really means anything if you're not able to profit off of it, but to me, I'm going to be calling that. And if I'm proven wrong, I mean, it doesn't matter. But if we can start moving through this SIBI and we turn it into an inversion, that's what I've highlighted, is I'm anticipating that to become an inversion at one point. Drop down into it, and then we expand higher into the buy side. That would be really, really cool to see on dollar, personally. Because this thing moves higher, then we have to start anticipating lower prices on NQ. And I think that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something. And I will be live tomorrow. I'll be live after CPI, so probably about 15 minutes, same time before the New York Open. And till tomorrow, good luck and good trading, everybody. Be safe.